Hey everybody, welcome to TIW Podcast. I'm Eric, and today I watched WWE NXT episode 557, NXT UK episode 89, SmackDown episode 1078, and 205 Live episode 175. Broadcast on April 15th, 16th, and 17th, 2020. I put off recording the NXT episode since this past Wednesday and a couple of days since then, but especially Wednesday, were a real bummer, and it was a real bummer in wrestling news with how many people were let go from the WWE. So I don't want to spend really very much time on that, or then hopefully that we get to see a lot of those people wrestle sometime soon, either in other places or that they're able to return back to WWE at some point or whatever. But anyway, also a real big bummer is that Howard Finkel, a legendary announcer for the WWE, passed away. So on top of all the other stuff that's going on out there, it was a rough week for wrestling fans, I think. But there, as far as what we saw on TV, there's some really good stuff. NXT I enjoyed. NXT UK was a cool, a cool like look back, another type of looking back from last week, because last week we had like early day kind of going through the history of NXT UK, but this time we had a couple of classic matches that were chosen by current wrestlers there in NXT UK, and then also a couple of them talking about their own matches, and then we got to see those matches. We also did this, it was also the same kind of thing on 205 Live. Actually, I'm gonna talk about that first, because it doesn't affect storylines or anything. We had the Brian Kendrick, and also I want to talk about this because I think this is going to be the name of the episode. He introduces like the show that the match that got him into wrestle, like that made him decide that's what I want to do, and him talking about it and explaining why it's his pick and all that was really cool. But he chose from WrestleMania 6, I think it is, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. I was trying to decide if I should just call him Hulk Hogan or the Immortal Hulk, because he made a point of calling him the Immortal Hulk Hogan every time he said it during the introduction of it. But he introduces this match and he says, "Bon appetit, Bozos," and I really like that. So that's why the name of this episode is that. But anyway, it was great to see that match. I'm pretty sure I had seen it before, but it's been a while for sure. I definitely didn't watch it when it was broadcast, because I don't think I had ever seen any WrestleMania in full until I started watching again just a couple of years ago, because it was pay-per-view back then. And the first time I ever got pay-per-view was like maybe a Bash at the Beach or something like that, because it was all about the WCW for me. So I don't think I ever got my parents to order a WWF pay-per-view back then. And even and WrestleMania 6 I was only like 4 or 5 years old, I think. So anyway, he also introduced one of his matches, and he talked about matches where he won championships and things like that. But the match that he chose that he wanted to show us was from the Cruiserweight Classic. I think it was the quarterfinals of the Cruiserweight Classic. The Brian Kendrick versus Kota Ibushi. Which I was not expecting to see a Kota Ibushi match while watching 205 Live this week. So that was really cool. So if you don't want to go through and find those on the network from their individual shows, you can check out those two matches on this week's 205 Live. Also, you can if you have Hulu, you can watch them on there. So, that's great. Also, just having those two matches filled up the entire hour. I had noticed since last week when I was looking at the shows on Hulu, because I usually watch 205 Live as it airs on the network. And the last few weeks, it's only been like 30 minutes, maybe something like that. Which it's a great 30 minutes because it's usually just like two matches and they're both great matches. But then I when I was looking through on Hulu for other shows, I saw I just out of curiosity, I went to the 205 Live page and I was like, wait, all of these episodes are like 49 minutes, something like that. And then I opened one up and it was a lot of clips. It had the two matches from that week, but it's a lot of clips, highlights from Raw and SmackDown. So it's has been pretty similar to what main event usually is, that you open up with an original match and then you have some highlights, then you have the second original match and then some highlights again. So it was taking that kind of format with the more limited amount of matches that they've had lately. But with this week's episode, I am pretty sure they did not have to do any highlights with that. They just showed exactly the same thing that they did on the network. And it was real good. Real good. Because, man, I did not... The first time that I saw this match back at the Cruiserweight Classic, I did not know anything about Kota Ibushi. That was the first time I had ever seen him. And, of course, I was like, oh, yeah, this guy is really good. But... now knowing even more about it, it's even more entertaining, and also it's everything more about the Brian Kendrick that I know now as well. So yeah, definitely go check out this week's 205 Live if you want a curated selection of some classic matches, and that has been a pretty cool thing. I think they could definitely get away with doing that with more on Raw and SmackDown. Raw especially, like talking about an individual classic match. I mean, they have been doing that, but they haven't done it the last couple of weeks. But making it more of like a retrospect, like a documentary look at it. Like get some even if it's just on smartphones and stuff, like get some people talking about a match, and then we get to see a classic match. It's the match that we get to watch is chosen for us, which I think, like, having the network is there's so much that you can watch on there, but because of that, it's like, oh, what match should I go and watch? Which WrestleMania should I watch? And which match on that WrestleMania is a really good one to check out. That having that choice made for you when you're watching Raw or 205 Live or whatever, I think there's a benefit to that in a way, which makes me think, how cool would it be if there's like a random match playlist mode where it not only takes you to a random show or a random episode of Raw or SmackDown, random pay-per-view, or even random episodes of NXT, etc. It also goes to a random spot in there. It goes to because they have markers in the database for where each match starts. So like some type of random playlist shuffle mode would be really cool, because to be able to just choose a random match to watch. But anyway, let's get to talking now. We're going back to Wednesday. We've got NXT episode 557. We open up with Finn Balor versus Fabian Aichner. Since Walter is not in the same hemisphere as Finn Balor. He has to go through the rest of Imperium in the meantime as he waits to get his hands on that UK championship. But Finn Balor wins via the 1916. Then we get a video package of Charlotte talking about who she wants a piece of in NXT. The top of her list is Mia Yim, but she also has to deal with Io Shirai first, and then everyone else. She just wants to fight everyone. Then we have Aaliyah versus Xia Li. This is like a payback, kind of a grudge match after Xia Li was taken out before that the qualifier. It wasn't the qualifier. It was a qualifier before the second chance match to qualify for the qualifying ladder. It was a qualifier for the qualifier. She lost her spot in the second chance match to get into the ladder match that Io Shirai eventually won. But anyway, Aaliyah lost to Xia Li in this grudge match, and that worked out pretty well for her. For Xia Li, that is. Then we had Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Akira Tozawa, and Tozawa won via senton. This was the only what is it called? Tournament. Why can't I think of the word tournament? This is the only tournament match this week for the Cruiserweight Interim Championship tournament. Next week there will be 3 matches with the rest of the field, including some matches with Drake Maverick, despite Drake Maverick being one of the superstars that was announced as being released this week. So that's an interesting situation. I don't know if they had already filmed all of these matches or what's going on with that. But I am glad that we get to see him in at least 3 matches before he's off of WWE TV for the foreseeable future. But anyway, next up we had Tegan Nox versus Raquel Gonzalez. Tegan Nox won via roll-up after Shotzi came out to attack Dakota Kai, who was causing a lot of trouble at ringside there. And it was great to see Raquel in action. This is her first actual match since getting paired up with Dakota Kai here. And she's great. And she has the meanest look out of like anybody and all, like in the world, really. And it's fantastic. But she did not get the win because of the involvement of Shotzi. And next week, before this match, I was thinking, Tegan Nox needs a big, strong friend. And Shotzi Blackheart fits the bill pretty well. We're going to get next week a tag team match between these 2 pairs, Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox versus Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. That's going to be pretty awesome. This episode actually had the least, well, other than 205 Live that didn't have any women's matches on there. But this episode had, surprisingly to me, had the least number of women's matches and segments out of all the shows this week, which is great for Raw and SmackDown. I mean, Raw and SmackDown have more time. Well, SmackDown doesn't have more time. They have the same amount of time. But I really hope that continues with Raw and SmackDown next week and the following weeks, because Raw had so many women's matches, and then also Zelina Vega's presence throughout the entire episode was awesome. And then SmackDown, which I'll get to in just a minute here, had a lot of women's matches and segments as well. So I'm really digging all of that. We had a Keith Lee video package talking about where he came from, how he got to this point, all of that. So that was really cool. Also, go check, I talked about this before, go check out him as Smooth Operator in the movie The Main Event over on Netflix. It's pretty fun. I mean, it's for kids, but it's good. It's fun. And speaking of fun, next up we had Dexter Lumis versus Tahuti Miles. Dexter Lumis won that match. I'm still trying to figure out if Dexter is supposed to be some type of alien, maybe an android, some type of super soldier, but perhaps most likely what I'm leaning towards now, and many I've been talking to are also leaning towards, is that he's some type of serial killer or something from the middle of nowhere, because I noticed that they build him as being from Recluse, Wyoming. And I looked up Recluse, Wyoming to see if there's like some type of like supernatural aspect of that town. If it is a real town, it is a real town. It's not really a town. It's like like an unofficial, it's like a community, more of an unofficial township. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was. The only thing on its Wikipedia page is that it has a post office that was established in like 1830 or something like that. Actually, I'm going to look it up again, like Recluse, Wyoming. It's on the north side of Wyoming. It's very isolated. The Wikipedia page for it is approximately 50 words. Most of those words are about the notable people, which is one. Actually, the part that's about notable people is more words than the rest of the article. But Recluse is a small unincorporated community in Campbell County, Wyoming, United States. A post office has been in operation at Recluse since 1924. I was way off. The community was so named on account of its isolated location. So that's like, there's an image of a stamp from the U.S. Postal Service from that location. And then notable people: Sue Wallace, rancher and Republican member of the Wyoming House of Representatives from Campbell County, served 2007 until her death in January 2014. It is located at 4428 North and 105 4229 West, way on the northeast side of Wyoming. And you blow up the picture, it doesn't have, it's just looking at a map of Wyoming is so funny, especially when it's like a really simplified map, because it's just a rectangle and then everything just seems like random inside of it. Because this map that I'm looking at does not have any roads on it. It only has the county lines and rivers and the major bodies of water. So anyway, that's all the information I have about Recluse, Wyoming. I was hoping it would be some type of like, it would be maybe near like an Area 51 type place, or if there's certain stories about it. But looking through here, that's really the only thing that comes up. What is the population? 529. So if Dexter Loomis is from Recluse, he is like 0.02% of the people from Recluse are completely weird weirdos. So anyway, Dexter Loomis. He was also Dexter looming in the background during the main event, but then he was gone after the commercial break. So I don't know what they were setting up with that, but I'm excited for it. I'm reluctant to say he's awesome, because his character might just be a complete psychopath, but the presentation of his character is definitely awesome. Plus his music is totally like Stranger Things. So that's why I think there's something more to it than just being a creepy guy. I think he's got to have some type of like spirit, ghosts that has possessed him or something. Anyway, we had another segment of Adam Cole at home. And I just love it whenever he says something like, "All right, stupid, listen." That's what I wrote. I wrote that down before he said everything else. That's how he started saying it. And that makes me laugh every time. So the Velveteen Dream, he was waiting for Cole to arrive at the show this entire episode so far, and then Finn Balor comes up and he challenges Velveteen Dream. So I guess we'll get that match pretty soon. I don't know, just kind of random there. And then it was announced that we'd get Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez versus Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox next week. I already talked about that. And then we had our main event, the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly versus the champion, one half of the Broserweights, Matt Riddle, and a mystery partner. And that mystery partner was Timothy Thatcher, who I was not familiar with at all, but now I am a huge, huge fan because I went and watched some clips of him from Evolve. Was the main thing that I watched him in after this match. And yeah, I am totally on board. Plus his interactions with Matt Riddle is so funny. Like, he would just like, why are we doing that? Like, it really seems like, I don't get you, man, but this works, I guess. But because there's one point where Matt Riddle is like, hey, put your hands out. And then he does. And then he like alley-oops him into like a moonsault thing. And Thatcher's like, okay, I guess. Whatever. So it was really fun to watch. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more from Timothy Thatcher, whether or not he's teamed up with Riddle in Pete Dunne's place, or just seeing some great singles matches will be great as well. But the Broserweights are successful. It is a strange couple of weeks for the tag team divisions because we also had over on SmackDown, the other half of the tag teams had a triple threat match for the championships in response to the triple threat ladder match at WrestleMania. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Some great highlights were they hit a double gut wrench on both of the Undisputed Era members there. And then he won. Timothy Thatcher got the win via the Fujiwara armbar delivered to Roderick Strong. And then we head backstage to Tommaso Ciampa with his thoughts, his response to having lost at... in that one last beat warehouse match or whatever we're calling that. And he says, I'm done with this, all of this. And then just out of nowhere, he just gets like a total jump scare horror movie thriller, like grabbed and just pulled away from the camera. Tommaso's laid out on the floor. And then we see Karrion Kross has attacked Tommaso Ciampa, despite last week seeming like they were scoping out Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. So, yeah, that was really cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with that. His name was not said on screen, I don't think. Because I think commentary was just completely out. By the way, commentary this week was back to me Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton. So I was a little bit worried when I heard Tom. I was like, oh no, is Sam Roberts back on commentary? No, Tom and Byron, which I am totally okay with that. So yeah, his shirts. That's how I knew his name, as I saw his shirt on the WWE shop. And then they also had a Timothy Thatcher shirt on there, which was really cool. So yeah, I like this episode of NXT quite a bit. Then on NXT UK, we had 4 matches that were picked by 4 wrestlers. First, Dave Mastiff, he chose Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask from Madison Square Garden in 1982. I had never seen that match before. It was awesome. Both of them amazing. And then the stuff that Tiger Mask was doing on those very bouncy, loose ropes, ridiculous. Like, it's the kind of high flying stuff that they do today in a much better situation, and a much more conducive situation for that as far as the ropes setup go. So yeah, that match was really fun to watch. And I don't remember, I didn't write down I can't remember who won the match. I think it was Dynamite Kid who won the match, but I'm not sure. Then we had Kenny Williams. He picked his match when he teamed up with Noam Dar against Grizzled Young Veterans from May of 2019. Then Ligero, he picked a women's match. This was following just a couple weeks after TakeOver Cardiff. He picked... Actually, it was quite a bit after that. But anyway, Tegan Nox versus Kaylee Ray, which I had not seen because I didn't watch any NXT UK from between Cardiff and the couple of episodes before TakeOver Blackpool. So it was really cool to see that to have this match chosen for me to watch because I really like both of them. Also, currently, I think as of right now, maybe she just passed the record mark. Kaylee Ray is the longest reigning NXT UK Women's Champion to date. Of course, the championship has only been around for like a year and a half, but still, hey, great job. And then the last match was chosen by A-Kid. And he chose another match that I hadn't seen. I think I've seen clips of it, but I hadn't seen the entire match. William Regal, his retirement match versus Cesaro from NXT. And that was on Christmas 2013. It was the Christmas episode. I don't know if it was specifically themed as Christmas, but nonetheless, William Regal got the gift of losing to Cesaro and retiring. So yeah, that match was really great. It was really I have not seen a lot of NXT from that period, so it's always interesting to hear Matt Bloom on commentary, although it was him and Tegan Nox and Tino Sabatelli who were on commentary for the Combine last year, and that was really cool. And I don't know, have they done the Combine yet this year? Did they do it before all the Performance Center filming began? Because if they did, I didn't hear about it, and they didn't do the live stream of it again. But that was really cool. That was one of my favorite things, like favorite extra things that they did last year. So anyway, really cool episode of NXT UK with everybody on there. I would have. It was really cool that Ligero picked that Tegan versus Kaylee Ray match. But I want to see Kaylee Ray pick a match. I want to see what classic matches Kaylee Ray, Tegan, Tony Storm, Piper Niven. I want to see what they would choose of matches that they loved when they were growing up or just getting started in wrestling and all that. So there you go. NXT, NXT UK, both very good. Even though NXT UK was not original matches, but it was really cool to see the short introductions from each of the wrestlers before that. Now, before I talk about SmackDown to close out this episode, I want to mention that I've been playing Animal Crossing. I don't know if I talked about that very much. There's nothing really to say about it other than it's fairly fun. It passes some time. But the best part of it so far is that a couple of people from my wrestling WhatsApp chat also playing, and they're the ones who I've interacted the most with on Animal Crossing. And the biggest interaction we've had so far is that I came across a wrestling ring item, and I got some extras for them. And now we all have wrestling rings on our islands. And so I got a bunch of pictures when you're visiting each other's islands of sitting at the rings. That's the closest I've been to attending a wrestling show with other actual people. Kind of, in a way, even though it was a wrestling show. I was chatting with everybody during WrestleMania in particular was technically a lot closer to attending a wrestling show with other people. But it was a really fun thing that I wasn't expecting to exist in Animal Crossing. I didn't think that they'd have wrestling ring in there. They also have like a little wrestling statue, and there's lucha masks that I didn't know about. I still don't have any of my own, but yeah, really cool. And then also I've been playing even more. Time has been spent playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and this is relevant to WrestleMania, and because they've been a sponsor. They were a sponsor of one of the nights of WrestleMania, I think, and it came out just last. It's only been out a week now, I think, and I've already spent a solid 24 hours playing it. I think I'm fairly close to maybe a couple chapters away from the end. And then I can unlock the hard mode. So spoilers, there's this one battle. It's in Wall Market, and you fight a house. It's called Hell House. I don't remember if this is in the original Final Fantasy VII, because I know they've expanded this section of the story. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's only the Midgar part of the story from the original PlayStation 1 game. And I don't remember how much of Final Fantasy VII I had played on the original PlayStation. There's some stuff that as it was happening, it's like, oh right, this happens, and things like that got me really excited, even as recently as where I am in the story right now. But I don't remember. So I remember some stuff when it comes up, and then the rest. So I don't know if I remember it because of people talking about it, and I don't remember stuff because I didn't actually play to that point myself, or if a lot of this stuff, I know a lot of the side quests for sure are added in there, but there's a main story where you have to go through a tournament. I was excited because in Wall Market there is a gym, and they have it's probably more likely a boxing ring, but they have a ring with the ropes and everything, and I was like super excited about that. Oh, another game, but I probably can't, because in Animal Crossing you can like lay in the ring, but you can't like run around in the ring because it's like a bed object. So it's cool having there, but it'd be even more cool if you could actually like stand up inside of the ring and run around. That would be amazing. But anyway, you also can't get into the ring in the gym in Wall Market in Final Fantasy VII Remake. But then shortly after I made that discovery, then you have to go through this tournament. I was like, oh, this is like an actual match. I can actually have a match. It's not in a ring, but it is in a coliseum, and it's a battle. There's an audience and all that, and then there's ring announcers and everything. It's great. But the last battle that you have in this part of the game was so frustrating for me. You fight a house. It's called Hell House. And I tried once, and if I was doing okay, dead. Tried again. Did a little bit better, dead. Tried a third time, did way worse than the other two times. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I thought for sure I had figured it out. It was something to do with what elements you use, which spells you use, and I was right, but I didn't realize the extent to which I needed to be paying attention to make that work. I thought it was just use blizzard spells and that's its weakness, whatever. No, it depends on what is in its windows. And okay, knowing this is kind of a spoiler, but it didn't really help me at all anyway. It can have frost or fire in the windows, and depending on which of those two you use, either fire or blizzard, or it might have wind or thunder or electricity in its windows, and then you use the opposites with the arrow or thunder spells. But that isn't what's in it. Most of the time it doesn't have anything in its windows, at which point I guess that's when you need some other thing to do to it, which I don't know what you do. And having that knowledge of the walkthrough that I looked at didn't help me at all either, because I tried it like 2 or 3 more times with that knowledge, failed, dead. Try again. So I finally changed. I changed it to easy, and it was still kind of tough. But I've been playing it on easy since then, because I had been getting killed by just like side quest bosses and stuff like that anyway. And I was like, it doesn't take a long time, but to do every one of these battles at least twice is starting to get frustrating. So I'm just gonna leave it on easy so I can finish the story, and then I can go back and play my favorite parts in harder mode and like level up my characters and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really like it. It's incredibly well done. I can't really even imagine going back and playing the original now. Like, just thinking about the original's graphics alone, I mean, they were groundbreaking at the time. Absolutely. But like the character models and everything, they certainly have their charm. But going back to that after playing this version of it is like, I don't even know what a good analogy for that. But it's awesome. Go check it out. Maybe wait at this point. Maybe wait until it's on sale for a little bit cheaper or something. Well, it's only been out a week. I'd say, yeah, go check it out. It's cool. I'm looking forward. I might be able to finish it today after I record this, because there's no pay-per-views or anything like that. So all there is to do on this Sunday. I'm recording this on April 19th, by the way, so pretty far behind of everything that I actually watched. But yeah, I think I might be able to finish it fairly soon. So anyway, now this week's episode of SmackDown opened up with Moment of Bliss with special guest Braun Strowman, and he noticed a gift in the corner of the ring. He says, "Oh, Alexi, he didn't have to do that." And Alexa's like, "I didn't." It's like, "No, I know you, mixed match channel team Little Big, you're the greatest." So he grabs that gift. And he opens it up, and it's the black sheep mask that he wore as part of the Wyatt family. So the mind games from Bray Wyatt are well underway. Next up, we had the match of the decade, or even the century, with Sasha Banks versus Tamina. Bayley was on commentary, and there's like so much I could talk. I could probably talk another half hour. Just about, not that much. I could talk like 5 minutes about it, but this match was so funny, so entertaining. You know what? I'm not going to mention anything that actually happened in this match. I said just go watch it. It's so fun, seriously. Up next after that, we had Sheamus versus Denzel DeJournay. And Sheamus, of course, won the match, and Sheamus gets frustrated with commentary because as he's still out at the ring, they start talking about Jeff Hardy for the second week in a row. So it looks like as soon as Jeff Hardy actually arrives in person, that Sheamus is going to beat the crap out of him. So we'll see how that works out pretty soon. Then we had Naomi versus Dana Brooke in a ladder match, Money in the Bank ladder match qualifier. And Dana Brooke won. I don't even know how that happened, but hey, all right. Good for you, Dana. And good luck in that ladder match, because they announced that the ladder match is going to take place at WWE corporate headquarters, and that they will start on the ground floor and fight their ways to the roof, where they will find the contracts suspended above the ring that is on the roof of this office building. So that's going to be ridiculous, and it could be pretty amazing. I'm really looking forward to that. So my biggest hope for that match is that there's some kind of raid style hallway fight scene that would be great. If there isn't one of those, then like, why did they even do it? Like that's like the most epic thing, because we've seen these fights in the Performance Center, but with just 2 people. Having 6 people involved in the match, that's like full on Raid possibilities. If you haven't seen the Raid, fantastic action film, go see it. And also Raid 2 Redemption, or whatever it's called, also really great. And that's the film that the filmmaker originally wanted to make, but then it was like too big, so they made the Raid first and then got the money for the second movie after being like, see, this movie's great, now imagine that we do even better. Raid is still the better of the 2, I think. But anyway, after that, we saw Sonya come out to the ring, and she wants to clear the air with Mandy, and it looks like it's going a very different direction before Sonya calls Mandy the most selfish person she's ever met. And how it was never about us being a team. It was all about Mandy. It always came out to her theme. Sonya's face is always blurred out during the special effects during entrance and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, she has some very, very good points. And Dolph Ziggler comes out. He tries to plead with Mandy. They went about it the wrong way and all that. And that he actually does like her and blah, blah, blah. And while he was doing that, Sonya lays Mandy out, and Dolph is like, wait, what are you doing? You ruined my chances here. And then Otis comes out, and there's a big brawl and all that. And yeah, things keep moving forward with this story. This is season 2 of the Mandy and Otis saga. I think we can officially say having WrestleMania as the season finale. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. It's a good direction, different direction to be taking. And then up next we had Cesaro versus Daniel Bryan for a spot in the men's ladder match. Part of this match was interrupted with the hacker coming in and saying something about keeping friends close but enemies closer, that kind of thing, hinting at a tag team maybe not being as good of friends as they think they are. Daniel Bryan, he won this match to earn his spot in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match via the label lock I think he used. I wanted to see Cesaro in there. I mean, I like both of them, but man, Cesaro, he was in the ladder match, what was it, 2 years ago? Oh, it was so good. We'll see what happens with Cesaro here soon. Hopefully he has some type of other. Like I mean, I still want to see Cesaro versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. When's that going to happen? Also, Sheamus versus Sami Zayn for their to win the championship in the first place. Make all these things happen soon, ASAP. But Sami Zayn did not appear on this program tonight. It was just Shinsuke Nakamura out there in Cesaro's corner and Drew Gulak in Daniel Bryan's corner. Baron Corbin attacks Elias backstage, and he beats him up for a solid 2 segments of the show. I kind of tuned out during all that. Baron came up, like, Elias ended up being laid out, beaten down, moaning, all that, while Baron walked away unscathed, basically. And then our main events, Big E versus Jey Uso versus The Miz in a triple threat match, not a ladder match, just a regular triple threat match, for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. This was in response to the triple threat with their partners, that ladder match at WrestleMania, which John Morrison won. But Big E wins this match. The New Day are new champs, and I was pretty excited for them. New Day are awesome. Big E is awesome, and I think this might be. It's definitely the first time I've seen it, but this might be the first time that a singles match has determined new tag team champions, and also that those new tag team champions are a trio. So it was one person winning the championships on behalf of three people, I think. Maybe, is that how? I don't know. The Wikipedia page doesn't include Kofi Kingston during last year's reign, and then they don't include Xavier Woods during the reign, the reign after that, because he was injured. I feel like they recognize all three of them as champions the entire time, which I'm going to look up right now. Going to the champions page, New Day. Yeah, it has all three of them on there. And in fact, on their image, Xavier Wood, the image that they have on the website, Big E isn't holding one of the championships. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are holding them. So anyway, with this win, the New Day are now 8-time tag team champions, and 6 of those times have been as the SmackDown tag team champions, and that is pretty awesome. We get a whole mess of new Big E photos and gifs after his win, with him just licking those championships and getting all sweaty in the back doing more workouts because the work isn't done and all that. There's a great video online of him in the gym part of the Performance Center after having won. That was really, really funny. So yeah, I'm really excited for these guys. I'm excited to see what happens next. We get another classic New Day versus Usos match. I'm sure that's going to happen really soon. If not before Money in the Bank, I think that match will happen at Money in the Bank. And I think with the hacker getting involved with everybody, stirring up trouble, I kind of appreciate that the hacker just drops in, hey, here's some info, and then gets out of there and lets everything play out. At least so far. He's only done it once so far. But if he keeps doing that, he just keeps dropping these truth bombs all over the place. I'm on board with that. But it seems as though a lot of people are expecting the next target to be Miz and Morrison, and I could definitely see Morrison being mad at the Miz for having lost the championships for them, because Morrison he held on to him. So I think he has just that alone is enough to get those two at each other's throats. But if there's additional truth bombs to be had about them, things could get pretty riled up there. But anyway, I think next week's SmackDown will have 2 more qualifiers, one for women's, one for men's. I like the way that SmackDown is doing that this over these weeks, instead of getting all the women in one night. Although having all the women have matches, their qualifying matches in one night was pretty cool this last week. But then that means next week there aren't any of those qualifiers, so we might not have as many women's matches. But having it drawn out, that adds a little bit more excitement and uncertainty, I think. Although with Raw, they didn't have any men's qualifiers matches yet. So they do have all 3 of those this coming week. That their side of things looks looking pretty weird. I already talked about that in this week's episode. But I don't know if they announced what the next qualifier match is. It would be pretty cool if Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus is a qualifier match. And I would expect Jeff Hardy to get in there. But then again, Sheamus has been undefeated so far since returning. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. Also, next week will be the start of the 25th anniversary of Triple H. That's like a weird way, an anniversary of the existence of a person in an organization, I guess. Well, yeah, that's what a work anniversary is, I guess. But it's not that weird after all. But it is weird to make it a TV celebration or whatever. But they said that that's happening starting next week, which seems to imply that it's going to be a multi-week celebration. But while talking about it, they mentioned that Triple H has never won the Money in the Bank ladder match. That might have just been a way to segue into talking about Money in the Bank. But with it being at the corporate headquarters, I kind of think that he's going to be involved in the match, if not be in the match and win it. It could be like Brock Lesnar entering like in the last few minutes last year, where they get close to the roof and then they go past Triple H's office. He's like, hey, what's going on out here? And then he joins in and then he goes and wins the match. I think it could happen. But anyway, it was probably just a segue to talk about Money in the Bank and promote it. So anyway, what was I saying? I don't know. But I'm looking forward to whatever happens on TV next week. Pretty nervous about more wrestlers getting let go, and behind the scenes people. A lot of producers were let go as well, and other people that don't even get announcements or anything like that because they don't appear on screen. But it seemed like everybody that was announced this past week was from Raw and 205 Live. And then there's been a trickling of NXT / Performance Center signees in the days since then. But I have a feeling that like Monday or Tuesday, there's going to be a bunch more announced. And maybe there won't be. It would be great if that was all, if they're done with that for right now. But nobody from SmackDown was announced so far. So I have a feeling we're going to find a few more names in the next few days. But fingers crossed, maybe, just maybe Fox is like, no, you can't lose anybody that's from our show because everybody's great or something like that. I don't know. So anyhow, that's it for this week. Let me know what you thought about everything. This is a huge episode. I might do the same thing next week, but for everything, which we'll just be adding on Raw. I just do one big episode for the entire week of wrestling, but we'll see how I feel after watching Raw tomorrow. But stay tuned. I'll have my Survivor episode up real soon. That was another thing, was that was a really emotional episode. Like in the opposite direction. It was a great episode. So I will do a podcast episode about that really soon. So stay tuned, and let me know what you thought about NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, and SmackDown this week by tweeting me at TIW Podcast. Go to TIWpodcast.com for more reviews. If you enjoyed this episode or anything else on the site, please share some links with your friends. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you like to listen. Stay safe out there in all the infinite multiverses, and I'll see you next time here on TIW Podcast. Bye.